Have you ever encountered someone who's incredibly quiet? Like, you could spend a full hour in their company and suddenly realize you've essentially been having a one-sided conversation with yourself the entire time. But here's what most people completely miss. Not every quiet person is cut from the same cloth. There are actually 4 distinct psychological types of people who don't talk much, and each one operates from a completely different mental framework. And here's where it gets interesting. By the time we reach the end of this exploration, you're probably going to catch yourself thinking, hold on, which category do I actually fall into? Before we dive deep into these fascinating personality types, if you're enjoying this kind of psychological insight, go ahead and hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. It genuinely helps us reach more people who are curious about understanding human behavior at a deeper level. Let's kick things off with the first type, which happens to be my absolute favorite, the conversational escape artist. Picture this person, sitting comfortably in a group setting. From the outside, they appear completely engaged, nodding thoughtfully, maintaining that perfect posture that suggests they're absorbing every single word being spoken. But what's really happening inside their mind? They're internally pleading with the universe that nobody directs a question their way. They're calculating every possible exit strategy from the spotlight of attention. And then it happens. The conversation naturally flows in their direction, and everyone's eyes turn to them expectantly. What do? They execute their signature move with practiced precision. So, James, I'm really curious. What's your perspective on all of this? Just like that, they've passed the conversational baton like it's a blazing hot potato nobody wants to hold for too long. These individuals have essentially perfected what I call social survival mode. They've figured out through experience, probably some awkward moments in their past, that the less they contribute verbally, the fewer opportunities they create for saying something they might regret later. The fewer chances they have to stumble over their words, share an unpopular opinion, or accidentally reveal something they'd rather keep private. But make no mistake about this. Their quietness isn't a reflection of limited intelligence or lack of insight. From a psychological standpoint, these people are actually strategic communicators operating at a sophisticated level. They're constantly observing the social dynamics playing out around them, reading the room with remarkable accuracy, adapting their minimal responses based on what they're picking up from others. And here's the fascinating part. Sometimes they can actually guide and influence the entire direction of a conversation without contributing more than a handful of sentences. It's a form of quiet influence, subtle manipulation, if you will, but executed with such elegance and class that nobody even realizes it's happening. Now, let's move on to the second type, the value speaker. This particular individual doesn't squander their verbal energy on superficial small talk or trivial topics like debating the merits of different pizza toppings or discussing what happened on some reality TV show last night. No, they're highly selective about when they choose to engage. You'll never catch them participating in mindless gossip or empty chatter that serves no real purpose. But the moment someone introduces a topic with genuine substance, maybe a philosophical question about the nature of existence, a deep dive into human behavioral patterns, or even some thought-provoking conspiracy theory that challenges conventional thinking, suddenly this person transforms. They become animated, articulate, almost like a professional speaker delivering a carefully crafted presentation. From a psychological perspective, this type of person places tremendous value on their mental and emotional energy. They understand that energy is a finite resource that needs to be invested wisely, not scattered carelessly. They don't speak simply to fill silence or to maintain social pleasantries. Instead, they communicate with clear intention, to forge genuine connections with others, to expand their understanding through meaningful exchange, or to share knowledge that might benefit someone else. They hold a deep belief that words carry significant weight and power, that language shapes reality and influences thought. Therefore, they use their words with intentionality and precision. So, when you notice a value speaker suddenly becoming talkative and engaged, pay attention to what triggered that shift. It means the subject matter resonated with something deep within them. It either stimulated their intellectual curiosity, touched an emotional chord, or aligned with their core values and beliefs. The third type is what I call the lone thinker. This is someone who has invested considerable time in solitude, not necessarily by choice, but often due to circumstances or natural inclination. They've engaged in so many internal conversations, debates, and reflections with themselves that they've gradually stopped requiring external validation or input for their thinking process. They've constructed an elaborate inner world, a rich mental landscape where they can explore ideas freely without judgment. So, when you encounter them in social situations, they often come across as reserved, somewhat detached, maybe even uninterested in what's happening around them. But that external impression couldn't be further from the truth. The reality is, they're simply accustomed to operating in silence. Their natural comfort zone exists in quiet contemplation and introspection, not in the exchange of small talk or casual conversation. Psychologically speaking, these individuals typically demonstrate high levels of self-awareness because they've spent so much time examining their own thoughts, motivations, and patterns. However, they usually possess lower social energy reserves. It's not that they harbor negative feelings towards other people or prefer complete isolation. Rather, they simply don't require constant external stimulation or the continuous noise of social interaction to feel fulfilled or engaged with life. Finally, we arrive at the fourth type, the silent authority. You definitely know this person when you see them. They maintain this aura of calmness and composure, sitting there with the serene presence of someone who's achieved inner peace, while everyone else around them is frantically expressing opinions and competing for attention. They contribute very little to the conversation in terms of sheer volume of words, but when they do choose to speak, something remarkable happens. Everyone else immediately stops talking and listens intently. It's as if their words carry more gravitational pull, more inherent value than the words of others. This type doesn't feel compelled to talk frequently because they've developed something that makes constant talking unnecessary. Genuine confidence that doesn't require amplification through volume or repetition. They're secure enough in themselves and their perspectives that they don't need to constantly assert their presence or prove their worth through verbal contribution. Psychologically, these individuals radiate two qualities that others instinctively recognize and respond to: stability and authentic presence. These are traits that naturally command respect without demanding it. They understand that speaking less but with greater intentionality makes each contribution more impactful. Their words aren't diluted by unnecessary filler or weakened by overuse. When the silent authority speaks, people listen, remember, and often act on what was said. So, whether someone falls into the category of the brilliant conversational escape artist, the selective value speaker, the introspective lone thinker, or the commanding silent authority, quiet people possess far more complexity and depth than surface-level observations might imply. The next time you find yourself in the presence of someone who doesn't contribute much verbally to conversations, I encourage you to pay a closer attention. Look beyond the silence itself. Their quiet might actually be concealing something remarkable: intelligence, operating strategically, depth that doesn't need constant expression, or strength that speaks through presence rather than words. Which of these four types do you recognize in yourself or in people you interact with regularly? Drop a comment below because I'm genuinely curious whether you can identify these personality patterns in your own life. And if you're sitting there thinking, actually, I don't fit any of these categories, then share with us what you believe might be a fifth type that we haven't covered. If this video shifted your perspective or made you think differently about the quiet people in your life, make sure you're subscribed because we explore these kinds of psychological insights regularly. Don't forget to hit that like button. It genuinely makes a difference in helping content like this reach more people who are hungry for this kind of understanding. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.